Okay, in today's video we're going to be talking about how to plan out your pours so you can avoid cold joints and just be efficient with your time. We're going to go over some different techniques that we use, talk about some older ones. But really quick, we're going to put up on screen all the stores that we are in currently with screed chairs, so you can go check them out. Obviously White Cap being the biggest, so if you want to get screed chairs, go talk to your local White Cap. Or if you live in a smaller place that you have a different concrete supply store, have them get a hold of us and then we can get those stocked for you locally. We're also on eBay and Amazon and then on our website too, so screedchair.com. If you use code REDLINE at checkout, you'll save 10%. And with that, we'll get into it. So this is the first video.
Okay, in this video you can see they're pouring a pad that's wider than their screed. Can you pause it there? So I don't know we don't know the width of this, but if you were to use a roller screed, you could pour from one side to the other. You probably pour this whole thing at once, but it looks like they're using a small vibrating screed, and I can't tell if that's a 2x4 attached to it or if it's a,
I think it's metal.
And it could be, but it doesn't really matter. The cheapest way to get into this would be a setup just like this. You don't have to buy it. You can just use a piece of a 2x4 across there. So they do have some type of screed chairs running down the middle and a pipe. You can see them pulling the pipe as they go, but what they're doing here right there's the pipe. So what they're doing here is they're pouring, it looks like maybe 8 or 10, maybe 10 feet wide sections, and they're pouring the one section and then jumping over before they pull their pipe. They're pouring one section, jumping over, pouring the other section right next to it, and then they pull their pipe down, and then they're pouring by doing it this way, it keeps you from getting any kind of cold joints. So instead of pouring one side all the way down, they're going back and forth and they're keeping that joint wet. So if you keep can you start back over?
Let's let it loop through. This comes from Moyer Masonry Inc., by the way. They're on Facebook. I'm sure there are other places as well, but
however you're doing this, so let's say it's 40 foot wide and you're using a 22 foot roller screed. You would pour out the exact same way these guys are doing it with this vibrating screed. So obviously with a vibrating screed you can't go 22 feet wide, but so this is probably maybe a 20 foot wide section that they're pouring, and if it's 20 foot wide with a roller screed, you could roll over the whole thing all at once, and then there's no chance of any kind of cold joint. But the way they're doing it is exactly how you'd want to do it if you had one of these vibrating screeds. And they don't have a lot of guys out there. Somebody's running the pump hose and shoveling grade. I couldn't tell if there's two guys, but you got one guy pulling the screed. So you don't need a lot of guys to pour this. Let's see how they're going from side to side, filling it in, screeding down to the end of their rail, and then pulling their rail down. And then they go back to the other side and screed that down to the end of the rail, and then jump over, screed it down to the end of the rail before they pull the rail down. So this is no matter what type of screeding you're using to pour something wide like this, even if you're doing it by hand, this is the way to do it, exactly how they're doing it.
the other thing too though is we've had a lot of people ask questions about getting your rebar mats in there, and as you can see, even with their screed chairs in the middle, they're still able to get their rebar up to where they want it. So that definitely works with rebar mats.
I don't remember the size, but it's huge, and they're using a laser screed. Now this laser screed's one of the small ones, and it's I don't know if it's 8 or 10 foot wide, but it's pretty small. But we worked on a high school, and the guys, we did all the outside concrete, but the guys that were doing the actual inside concrete were using a screed exactly like this, and they poured that whole school with this exact type of screed. Everything turned out really good. So, but the reason I want to show this is because it's the same principle. If you watch how these guys are pouring, so if let's say we were to pour this and we don't have a laser screed, we would use a roller screed, and we could probably span out 25 feet, so we'd be pouring 25 foot sections.
So like somewhere out in here maybe.
Well, that's probably an 8-foot wide strip that they poured, so you're
Maybe three
three
of
times
those.
that, yeah. And you'd pour that in one pour, in one pull.
So you'd run your chairs somewhere in here.
I'd run a row of screed chairs every 20. I guess you'd probably space every. If your roller screed's 27 foot long, then you'd space them 25 feet somewhere in that area. And then you just pour big strips just like that. And if you watch them, see how they keep going back and forth. It's to keep that edge wet.
So you're not getting a cold joint.
So there's
there.
no cold joint, yeah. And as these guys go, and they're pouring this pretty fast, so probably as fast as that pump will pump it out. The one bad thing about these big pours like this is keeping the gravel from sucking the moisture out of the concrete. So with no vapor barrier, and you're pouring right on gravel, if your gravel's not, and you can see that obviously they soak their gravel at some point, but if your gravel's not wet, it's going to suck that moisture out of that concrete really fast. And
well, one issue that I see with doing it this way is what it's going to keep your rebar from that machine not pushing your rebar down.
When it rolls over the top
As
of
it rolls over the top. So that rebar's probably not in the middle of that concrete. I'd say it's probably right on top of the gravel, if I had to guess.
And it could be, and that's always an issue, even with people walking on it, or you pushing the rebar down to the bottom, or if you're using the welded wire. That, I mean, if it's 6-inch squares of the welded wire, you're walking all over that. So it's always an issue to try to keep your reinforcement in the where you want it in the slab, whether it's in the middle.
But you
or
can usually pull it up
Yeah.
as after you kind of screed it over it with the roller screed and kind of pull it up as you're screeding it. See, this thing is driving right over the top. They're not really going back to pull that. They can't go back and pull that rebar up. So I'm pretty sure that machine's pushed that rebar all the way down to the ground.
Yeah, and they could be.
I mean, I don't know if it's
They weren't using screed chair or rebar chairs. It didn't look like they're pulling it up. So rebar chairs would help. Here's the thing. This is the only reason I want to show this video is because you don't have to pour big stuff like this. You don't have to have a laser screed. So you could pour as fast as that pump can pump that concrete out. You could pour with a roller screed, or you could pour with a vibrating screed if you're doing 10-foot strips like that. And as fast as you can pump it out, you just set your rails every 10 feet apart all the way across there, and then pour exactly how they're doing it. There'd be no difference between the way they're doing it and if you were to do this by hand. Obviously to screed this much concrete down there by hand is a lot, and you're gonna kill your screeders, which people do it.
So with a pour of this size, what would be like a quick rundown of how you would plan it out, aside from the way that they're screeding it, keeping that cold joint or keeping that joint moving so it stays wet?
I think that's the key, is you got to keep that joint wet. And then
As far as like the time of day when you're pouring something this size?
earlier the better. So these guys when they finish, they're using riding power trowels, and the only way you could finish a slab this big is with a couple riding power trowels. You could never do this with
Some walking ones?
You'd lose it. They're just not fast enough. So, or unless you had like 10 of them out there. So, but even to do it this way, you may get, depending on when they pour, you may get to the point where, and they do this all the time, you'll have a whole nother crew back behind these guys finishing. I don't think these guys have that on this job. I think they go back and finish it themselves. But on these massive pours,
You can see it getting dry back there.
yeah, and those riding power trowels are honestly amazing. But that's the thing, to pour something this big, you'd have to plan it out to where you make sure you got your riding power trowels ready to roll. And depending on the time of day, you can see it's starting to get, maybe even it looks like they may have some wind going too. So that's one of the things that I see the problem with not using mechanical screeding is when you start getting so much concrete out there before you've even screeded it, and if it's on gravel like this and your gravel's starting to suck the moisture out before you even screed it, they have so much concrete out there that is already getting hard before they even get to the point where they're screeding it. Yeah, you can see they're not even leaving marks. This is...
Yeah, well, now to finish it, probably finish it off pretty nice though.
I'm sure those
With
riders do really
the
well.
rider.
The riders, you can see the winds blowing. You can see that white, the stack of wood over there on the left, that wind's blowing that tarp. This is, if we were to pour this, no way would we pour this. We couldn't pour this in one pour.
No.
This would probably take us 3 pours, I would think. Maybe if we had a couple 4-foot power trowels, maybe we could pour halves. But we'd have to pour early in the morning to be able to stay on top of it. I can't remember the size. We'd have to look up the size, but you're kind of limited without the riding power trowels to how much you can pour. So this is the only thing I want on something like this is, it looks like they're pouring on vapor barriers, so that's going to keep it from the moisture from getting sucked out as quick. But if you're going to pour out, you can see they're pouring out a lot of concrete and leveling it the best they can before they even start screeding. And that to me is the danger. When we do it, especially with a roller screed, we like to stay right with the truck or right with the pump. So we're pulling the screed as the concrete's coming out of the truck and pump. We're not pouring out great big sections and then going back and screeding it. Because as soon as that concrete's on the ground, it's starting to set up. And that gravel sucks the moisture out. Plus now you got the air, and if the sun's up, the sun's baking on it. Wind. Not to get too much concrete poured out before you can get it screeded, because once it hardens up, there's nothing you can do with it. You're tearing that out. So
What I've always found strange though is like they use a truck to mix it, they use a pump to pump it in, but then we're back to hand screeding instead of machine screeding it.
yeah, and this is a big slab, so you can do it. They're doing it. It's not.
They have a ton of guys.
Yeah.
And it looks like they got a bunch of posts in there that they got to go around. So it's going to be a pain with the... If we had to go around all those posts, you'd probably want to do it by hand. Because it looks like they got a bunch of... Oh, it's wire. It looks like conduit. See all those conduits? It'd be a pain in the ass with a roller.
I still think we would run this with a roller.
Just go around them.
Yeah, just go around them.
Yeah, you could.
I mean, it's a lot to screed by hand for anybody.
And maybe you could just plan it out where specific sections you hand screed those and then jump around.
You just look at all those freaking...
But maybe you would use a combination of a
Yeah.
vibrating screed and a roller screed, and you could get, if you planned it out right, you got to plan your pours out. And the way those companies have done it, even this company, they're not pouring the whole slab before they start screeding. They're right on it. So I think you plan your pours out and try to get to where you're ready to finish as quick as possible, which means get the mud out, get it screeded off and flat and floated, so now it's ready to be finished as quick as you possibly can, and there's no chance of getting cold joints, no chance of your mud setting up too quick and then you're behind. And once you get so far behind, what are you doing now? Spraying water on with a power trowel, trying to finish it up, and it just does. It's not going to hold up.
Does it pump it in too?
No, it does. They have pumps pumping it in, but as soon as they connect a pump, which they're working on that, as soon as they connect the pump to this roller screed, those guys aren't out there anymore.
Wow, that's pretty.
So that's
So-
That's pretty ingenious.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Actually.
You just set it up and then you can move it once everything's
Yeah.
screeded, and you see the guy down on the ground. He's got the remote, so he's not sitting up high. He's right down there running this thing, just like you would a pump truck. He's got a remote. So this is exact same concept as a pump truck, but you're just like you're saying with driving over it.
Yeah.
You're not driving over rebar, and this is what I'm talking about. Your combination of mechanical. So instead of using this laser screed, if you use the roller screed and you hit a lot of the big stuff, and then you're able to pour with the vibrating screed some of these smaller areas. This is the combination that you'd want to use on stuff that has a lot of penetrations, like your. And then obviously, like that guy was going around the boxes by hand, so you can only get so close with these mechanical screeds. But to go out and do these big jobs and screed everything by hand it's not necessary anymore.
This comment says the best way and the right way is to build your footer, then shoot it with the laser and go grade nails and snap lines, then pour and level to the grade nails.
Okay, now we used to do this, and I know we've talked about this before. So when we started, it was with my grandpa, and this is how he did it. We would shoot lines in there, chalk lines. So we'd shoot it with a laser or grade inside the form, our stem wall form, and then we would chalk lines, and then we would pound in little tiny grade nails to that line. So when we poured, you would finish your concrete to the grade nail, and yeah, it worked. But once we figured out, listen, and the main reason is because we didn't get our footings to grade. So our footings weren't to grade. Once we started setting our footings to grade,
Like the forms?
The forms. We'd set our forms to grade, and then we screeded off our forms. All of our forms were perfectly to grade, and we didn't need that. This is an old way of doing it. And to shoot your foot, if you're shooting footings, and I guess it depends what forms you're using too. So if you're pouring a 1 foot thick footing and you're using a 2 foot thick form to do it, then obviously, you'd have to do it that way. But we would form our footings. I like to form our footings to the so we're screeding off the top of the form, and we would use metal forms. I know a lot of guys use wood. We would still use wood mixed in with metal forms, but we would pour our footings thick. And so say our footing's 8 inches thick, and we used it was completely dug out all the way to the bottom of the footing. We would use a 4-inch form set to grade, set to the footing height, and then we would pour our footings probably at a 2.5, maybe 2.5. So we didn't have a lot of concrete blowing out underneath the form, so we didn't need to form all the way to the bottom. These guys that are pouring their footings at a 5 or 6 or 7, yeah, they have to have their forms all the way down, or it's just going to blow all that concrete out the bottom. So everybody does it different. I'm just saying that maybe there's a spot for doing it this way, but just because we don't do it that way anymore doesn't mean we haven't done concrete or we're not experienced. We've done this for a long time, and we're trying to find better ways, smarter ways, quicker ways, get better results. What's the reason you can't get your forms to grade? Is it because your forms are too tall that you're using? Well, if you pour a lot of stuff, rip them down. Get them to the right height. So if you're pouring an 8-inch footing, get you some 8-inch forms, or pour a little drier and do, like us. We everything was formed with 4-inch forms. If it was a foot thick footing or something like that, then yeah, we would use, maybe use two of those 4-inch forms stacked. Everybody does it different. I'm not criticizing anybody, but I think for that guy to think that we're not experience because we don't do it the way he does it. You know, there's a ton of different ways to do it, and we have done it the way he did it. We stopped doing it because it didn't make sense anymore. We found better ways.
We want you guys to share your ideas and show us your ways of how you pour concrete, because we're not saying we know every single way. We've just found the way that's the easiest, the best, saved us time, made us a lot of money, saved our guys from being bent over all the time. You know, just the easiest way possible is what we're trying to figure out with concrete. And with screed rails, that seems to be the easiest way we found. Nobody can screw up. That is the easiest way to screed concrete, is with screed rails.
And mechanical screeding as much as possible. Use a mechanical screed. So if you're the boss that's out there, and you're not the guy, you're the boss, and you're not the guy out there running the hand screed, and you're forcing your guys to hand screed these big pads. Obviously, if it's a small pad, yeah, hand screed it, get it done quick. But if it's a large pad like this, and you're just too cheap to do mechanical screeds, you're just working these guys like slaves. I don't feel like that's right.
Well, they're just not going to stick around.
They shouldn't stick around. They should go find one of these big companies that's doing it the right way.
And what's funny too is literally down the road, there's a company redoing a bridge over here, and they are using roller screeds to pour all that out. We could even drive down and go get a picture of it or take a video of it.
Yeah, it's the bigger companies are figuring it out. Smaller companies are starting to do more and more, but I think you just got some old school concrete guys that maybe they don't watch anybody else. Maybe they just, you know, they're kind of stuck in their ways, and the old guys are teaching the young guys this is how it's done, and now the young guys are taking over, and they don't change. They do it the same way, and it's just gonna wreck you. It's gonna wreck you. It's gonna wreck your friends that are working for you. You got to try to use mechanical everything as much as possible to try to save your bodies. This is a hard business, a hard industry. You only got so many years before your body's shot, especially in this business.
Well, with that being said, if you guys got videos that you want us to react to, or different ways of pouring concrete that you want us to look at, send them to us. People send us videos all the time that we react to, obviously, and that we like to watch and comment on. And yeah, just real quick before we go too, I'll put up on screen one more time all of the stores that we are in, biggest being Whitecap. So if you want to get screed chairs stocked at your local store, go talk to them, have them get a hold of us, or you can go to your local Whitecap, ask for Redline screed chairs, or you can buy on Amazon or eBay, or you can go to screedchair.com, and if you use code Redline, you can save 10% on your order. Thanks for watching. Leave your comments down below, and we'll see you guys in the next video.